Hey, it's Kisha here with Defending the Early Years podcast. We'll be focusing on amplifying the voices of early childhood educators, advocates, and all of those who love children.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Defending the Early Years podcast. It's your host, Kisha Reid, and I'm here today with the wonderful Rae Pica. And Rae has been an early childhood educator, consultant since 1980, is internationally known as a speaker, and very, might I add, popular in this region. I'm in Maryland. I believe you're in Virginia.
I
And
am.
very popular in this region and throughout. Rae has written 22 books. 22 books. One of the most recent that really got jumping and that I adore is What If Everybody Understood Child Development? So there were a lot of thought provoking conversations revolving around that concept, that question, what if everybody understood? And then that brings me to the next question: how do we get this information to people? I spoke with you before last season of the podcast, and we talked extensively about that question. Now, this time, Ray's back with a new book, and this one is another one that hits close to home. It's another question, a wonderful question: why play? How to make play an essential part of early education. So I want to welcome you, Rae, and I want to know, why is this the question?
Why are we still asking this darn
Mhm.
question, right? Thank you for having me, Keisha. I'm a huge fan of Defending the Early Years. I promote it whenever I can because you guys are doing such important work. And yes, this is my 23rd book. Wasn't planning to do
Wow.
another one, but Teachers College Press approached me and I said no at first, but then, I didn't hold out very long. So they wanted me to do one on play. And I thought, well, everything's already been said. There were so many wonderful books about play. But, as you mentioned in our last conversation, we talked about advocacy. And I thought, well, maybe that's the spin I could put on play. How do we advocate for all the different kinds of play? But yeah, I mean, that's one of the first things I say in the introduction is, why are we still having to ask and answer this question? We have research. You probably know better than I do how far back the research goes, that play is not separate from learning, and yet we're constantly having to defend it. I mean, I started in 1980, feels like 112 years ago. It was a very long time ago. Um, as a movement person, I was the movement lady who went into the local childcare centers and preschools and did my thing. And, I sort of
That's
watched teachers react uh, not positively to the words children and movement in the same sentence. I
hmm I
joke.
was just gonna chime in and say that at a point in my career, I did the same thing. I
Oh,
did the
really?
yes, and this was after working in classrooms for many years. Actually, I was still working in classrooms when I was doing it, but I did the movement in my groups, and it was pretty popular. So I was like, "Hey, I can do this with other programs." So I
Yeah.
would teach morning pre-K, and then after nap time, I'd go around to different programs and do music and movement. So we have that in common. I just wanted to chime in and say that. That's exciting.
Oh, all these years we've known each other, and I
I
did not
know.
know that about you, that we had
Yep.
that in common. That's
That's where I first
fabulous.
came in contact with your work, actually. So I knew you were the movement person.
Oh, cool. But well, I don't know about when you were doing it, but back in the beginning of time, um, teachers would sort of back away from me as though I was a dentist holding a drill, because they didn't want to hear the words children and movement in the same sentence. It just conjured up images of children bouncing off the walls. And I still get some of that, a little bit of that resistance. There are a lot of reasons not to include it, but it took me a long time to realize that I needed to justify it. And I've been justifying movement and play for 45 years. Um, and it's just so frustrating, isn't it? I mean,
It is. It is.
it
It really
has,
is.
I mean, children were born to move. They were meant to play. Nature meant them to learn and develop through play. I was just writing something the other day because I'm actually working on a new online course called Let's Get Physical and embracing the power of big body play. And, I was talking about the health related benefits and all of that. And I thought, every every adult, especially every parent, wants their children to grow up healthy and strong. They want them to have strong bones and muscles and just to be physically fit. But but they don't seem to understand that that won't happen just by wishing it would happen, that that won't happen by allowing children to be sedentary. They're just not moving enough. I mean, the statistics are kind of appalling. Obviously, there are educators like you who make sure it happens, but you know, when I read things like children are getting, 3.1 minutes of physical activity per day in preschools, and it is getting worse, it's getting worse instead of better. So, yeah, I've got a lot of white hair. It's just, there are a lot of times where I just want to put my head down on my desk and weep and wail with what's happening with children. How long have you been in the field?
I've been working with children for about 30 years now. So it's been a
Yeah.
really long time. I started as a young teen and I never stopped.
Oh,
And one thing that was always different about my classroom or my program was that my children were moving and they were
yeah.
allowed to move.
Hmm.
And as you said, it was often frowned upon. Like my class was the known as like the crazy class or the noisy
Noisy
class
one.
or
Yep.
the messy class. But what solidified for me that those things were important was when it came time to do the state assessments when I was teaching a kindergarten program. And the children that were in my program excelled. I mean, it was blatantly obvious that they tested significantly higher than the children who were in the classrooms where the children were forced to sit crisscross applesauce, where they got very little
Yes.
outside time, where they
Yes.
weren't learning in playful ways. So for me, that was the catalyst for me to even go further with it. Like that, I was like, okay, all right, to go further with it. That's when I started digging deeper into the research. That's when
Yeah.
I started defending what we know and what children showed me and what the research confirmed is right for children. So, yeah, it's been a long time. And I feel like books like yours help us with the advocacy portion because if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. But sometimes I feel like, what's the point? You know, I mean, I
Hmm.
remember reading in the 25th anniversary edition of David Elkind's The Hurried Child, which is a brilliant book, that, I mean, and he had sold 250,000 copies at that point, or something like that. And one of the first things he says is in the introduction to that edition is things have only gotten worse. And so you think, well, gee, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, if he could sell that many copies and people still aren't paying attention, but um, I got my father's stubborn Italian persistence, and so I can't I get tired, but I can't quite give up, fighting the good
Yeah, it's
fight.
worth it. It is worth it for humanity. So when I know you speak and you do keynotes and you consult. When you work directly with educators and bring these questions to them, do you feel that You're lighting fires? Are people showing you good feedback? Are you seeing a shift within our education system that's responding to these questions? Like, why aren't we following development? Why not play? Are you finding that the questions are sparking change?
I think so. I mean, I hope so. I do feel as though I'm not getting the kind of resistance. I don't feel like the dentist with the drill anymore. Um, and I do only virtual keynotes and presentations these days because this old body just doesn't travel all that well. I know I'm not supposed to put those kinds of things out into the universe, but there's the truth, you know. So, um, and with you seem to have more feedback. I seem to get more feedback with the virtual presentations because the chat box is so easy for people rather than, me standing up on a stage behind a podium or something and them being so far
Mhm.
away from me. And people don't tend to want to raise their hands, but in the chat box, they will let you know. And I feel like I'm getting a lot of good feedback. And I think that once what has it been the last couple of decades that children have become more sedentary. Fear and that whole earlier is better thing have taken over. Um, Once there was a lot less movement in the early childhood settings, I think that's when early childhood educators began to appreciate it more. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like they
Yeah.
suddenly realized, wow, the children are acting up more, there's a lot more fidgeting and wiggling and challenging behavior and they're just unhappy. I mean
Yeah. Yeah, I think what I keep seeing the cycle of developmentally inappropriate programs doing harm, and
mhm.
then creating a sort of a band-aid for that harm. And
Yes.
it's almost like this throwing hands up and everyone's wondering what's wrong with children nowadays. And the reality is, what's wrong with children nowadays is they're not getting to play. They're not outdoors. They're not testing and thinking critically. And I know your current book really breaks down the different types of play, and that's important because I don't think that someone who doesn't study this understands the depth and the nuance that is involved in play. It's not this shallow word. It is a deep, deep learning. So I
Right.
think having a book that breaks that down and makes it palatable, and also getting that information out directly to folks who work with young children is so important,
Mm.
because I think play is a four-letter word to many people. They hear play
Yes.
based or the children. How many times have I heard people say, so they play all day?
Yes.
No. So when do they learn? And this is coming
Ah,
from people who have degrees and people who work with children every day. And to have to explain to them.
I know. I know. Don't you wonder what they're teaching in the prep courses
Yes.
these days?
Yes, it
Uh,
is. I know what they're teaching because I've dropped several because it just was missing the mark, and it's cringeworthy.
yeah.
So it's a bit of a struggle to, if you're having a trouble reaching early educators who are taking classes and earning degrees. Imagine the challenge of getting the information to parents. It's
Hmm.
it's not easy,
Yeah.
but it is worth it
Oh,
because
yes.
we see what happens when children are being stripped of the opportunity to play and move. So it's
Yeah.
worth it. When I say your work is having an effect on humanity, I mean that. Like, we cannot
Mm.
develop whole humans without movement, play, engagement in the outdoors. These things are important.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, thank you. I can't tell you how much that means to me. What's wrong with kids today is the adults. That's what's wrong with children today. The adults are making decisions that are just anti, oh, children. I mean, you talked about having what the craziest class, the noisiest class, the messiest class. Well, doesn't crazy, noisy, and messy describe childhood? Isn't that what it's supposed to look
Hmm.
like? I don't
Yep.
understand why we don't want children to act like children.
Hmm.
Oh, I'm getting myself all worked up.
Yes. It was the crazy, messy, all of those things, but it was also the most joyful, the most
Yes,
engaged, the most
yes.
connected. And
Oh,
I think
God.
that too is a big thing that we're missing. All of us, not just
Yes,
connection. It's
yes. Oh,
the
absolutely.
connection in the relationship with other people, the connection and relationship with the earth and the world, the connection
Hmm.
and relationship to materials. They don't have the time or to connect with, even with concepts. Like, I remember when my children were in school, because they have to cram so much information so early, they're going so fast. So you're
Yeah.
not even getting the time to connect and explore and experience the information that you're learning. It's just like, learn it, test it, move right along. Learn it, test it, move right along. And that's from preschool all the way up. So you're just not absorbing
No, it's not.
information anymore.
It's not authentic learning by any
Yes,
means, you
yes,
know.
that's the word.
Yeah,
It's
I
not.
mean,
It's losing its authenticity, and I don't blame teachers.
no.
Because, one, if you're not learning it when you're getting your degree, you're not learning it, that's already one strike. Two, you're entering a system where they just don't have time for it. It's not a priority. And in their calculation, I guess, it doesn't enhance the test scores, when in fact I can attest that that's
Yeah.
not true. It just it's just loses, it loses its priority there. So if you're a part of that system and you know what we know, it's tough. Like, I feel bad for those teachers, because it's tough when you know that children need to move. And I know I've interviewed several teachers who have made it work. They did what I did. They closed their doors and they let their kids move.
Yeah.
They extended their recess and they taught outdoors. They incorporated those things. They informed their parents about movement. They offered children opportunities to work with their entire body. So it's out there, but man, it's hard for them.
Yeah, when you have to be clandestine about it, for goodness sakes, that's just ridiculous. I mean, and with all of the research that we have, and I mean, we've got research about the connection between moving and learning, between, physical activity and the way the brain functions, and we have research about the importance of breaks and the need for recess and what the outdoor light and time spent in nature does for children. I mean, we've got research coming out of our ears, and I don't know why it's not being implemented in this country. I mean, Finland's been paying attention to the research for decades, and things are going pretty well over there educationally. I mean, I relate this story every once in a while of when the it was the Texas State School Board was trying to decide whether or not they should implement daily physical education. And one school board member said, "Well, if they have daily PE, the kids will be healthy but dumb." And they
Oh
just
my.
don't. Yeah. Uh, and all you have to do is, take a look. I mean, if you're going to be making decisions about children, about their education, about their lives, you ought to know what you're talking about.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
the research is everywhere, and it seems like every time something new comes out about play and the physical activity and its relation to brain functioning and all of that, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like big news when
Mhm.
no, this is old news actually. It's been around for a long time.
We've been knowing it. So my question to you is, what is your advice for, let's say I am a teacher, I work in a pre-K or a kindergarten or even a first grade, and I just noticed my kids aren't getting enough movement, they're not getting enough play. They've made me take my blocks out of the classroom.
Mhm.
Um, you know, but I know in my heart it's wrong. And I know that we're struggling because of it.
Yeah.
What would you say that an educator who's in that position should do? Like, what should they do? How do they advocate from that position?
Well, I think they should close their door and be clandestine about it, like, the way you did. Um, I think that educating the parents is probably the most important thing we can do. As you mentioned earlier, it's really important to let them know. Um, and my editor was smart enough to suggest that each of my chapters have a section called Partnering with Parents. So, I mean, it doesn't
Mm,
have to be a big deal. If you're already, and there's so many ways to communicate with parents now, if you're already sending out emails and little notices or newsletters or whatever, I mean, think about how much easier it is to do that electronically than it was when we were, and there were young people who won't know what I'm talking about when I say mimeographing. But yeah, it just include a quote, Einstein's quote, "Play is the highest form of research," include uh, photos of children being joyous. I don't know when we decided education should not be joyful. I mean, when did we
mhm,
decide it had to be taciturn and frankly miserable? Because then there again, we have research about the power of joy in learning. I mean, there's not a ton of it out there, but it's out there. Whew, they're intricately linked. So, share a research art, well, not a research art, share an article, or highlight make some bullet points from a research article, and share it enthusiastically with the parents. Oh, I thought you'd love to see this. This great article on play and why it's so important. And um, I mean, I'm pretty sure it was Mike Huber who said that with the rough and tumble play, which is,
mhm.
really frowned upon, that he sent home video of the children engaging in it. And when the parents saw how joyful their children were and how much, they just loved engaging in this and that it wasn't something to be afraid of, they supported it. They fully supported it. So, we can't expect the parents to know. I do expect the educators to know the research or, to verse themselves in some of it, but parents just don't have the time for it. So I think it's our responsibility. If we're responsible for educating the whole child and for making the most of our time with them, we have to help the parents understand what really is the best for them.
I love that you have the portion of your book that supports that bridge between school and home,
Mm,
because I think that is probably the most important. I mean, of course, I work directly with the children is important, but they are a branch from a tree that includes their family, and I think it is really important to have that bridge, have that communication with parents, so that they understand the why behind
yes.
what we're doing.
Yes. Well, they
And
get so much misinformation, don't they? I
yes,
mean, that
yes.
whole earlier is better thing is
Mhm.
insane.
Yes, but when they understand the why from us, then what I've witnessed and what I've experienced is that it begins to translate to home. So it's this full scope of the child's being, not just something that happens when they're at school. So,
Yes.
in my experience, families who have attended my program for years, slowly their materials start to shift to be more open ended and less, noise making, like one note plastic toys.
Yep.
Their outdoor spaces. I've had families that created their backyards into like little discovery areas. So
Oh,
that all when that happens, I always feel it deep. Like that is a change that I have made in the life of that child, not just their school life, but like across their life. And
yeah.
that I think is a big deal, because in most cases teachers only have a child for 1 year. So if you
Yeah.
can plant a seed that's going to continue to grow, it's a big deal. I love book
Huge.
clubs. I love if you can get your administrator to purchase a bunch of the book and kind of give it to the teachers and kind of pose it as a question. Really, it's a real question. Why
Yeah.
play? Why play? And also, why not play? Let's talk about why you're not doing it, so that we can get over some of the hurdles. A lot of times you have to come from that direction. Like, what makes us not do it? So that we can
Right.
then solve those problems, those speed bumps, those things in the way, and make it
Exactly.
make it a priority.
Yeah,
So,
there are a lot of things getting in the way of play these days. I mean,
mhm,
the fascination with digital devices and the belief that, blocks, something as old-fashioned as blocks, can't possibly offer the children as much as, you know, bits and bits of information and blinking lights and bright colors and everything else that the computers offer.
mhm,
Um, the fear, the fear of children falling behind, the fear of children going outside because they might get snatched. And, you know, and I said that too lightly. It's definitely something to be concerned about. But,
yes,
even the, what do you call it, for missing and what is that?
missing and exploited children.
Thank you.
Mhm,
It's Sunday morning here, so my brain is taking a little break. Um, yeah, I mean, even they say that stranger danger isn't a real thing. So it's greatly exaggerated in the media, and there's no easier group of people to scare than parents, of course.
mhm.
Um, I mean,
And
we
I
have,
think another part of the reality is we don't have community like we did when I was younger. When I was
right.
younger, if my mom was working or if my mom was cooking, there was a lady from the window, Susie's mom was watching us. I mean, there
Hmm.
was community. You knew your neighbors. You
Yeah.
were, there were less neighborhoods and roads and,
Right. Right.
strangers about. You normally knew the cars that pulled up. It is a different world in that sense, but
Hmm.
statistics show that it's not a more dangerous world. I think the issue
Right.
is that we have more information. So
Okay.
whereas in the past we knew what happened in our neighborhood, we might have known what happened, in the city we lived in, but we didn't know what happened in every state, in every
Yes.
city, in
Yes.
every hurt child or every missing child.
Yeah, we're being
And
pounded with that,
yes,
with the media,
yes,
24-hour news cycles. And yes, things have changed. If you think about physical activity, it used to be part of what people did when they were farming, and I mean, when
yes.
work was more manual and physical, and so it's incumbent upon us to find ways to make it part of our lifestyle now, in the same way it's incumbent upon us to realize that neighborhoods aren't the same, but there are alternatives.
Mhm.
Um, we can make sure our communities have clean, safe playgrounds and parks, and we can make sure that everything that we do as a family isn't sedentary,
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Those are choices that can be, honestly, it could be simple. It could
mhm.
be as simple as a walk around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I think that um in our very hurried, very busy society, we tell ourselves that we don't have time for it, and we do. We have
Yeah.
to have time for it. We have to make time for it.
It's priorities.
It is. It really is. So
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for your work. Can you please tell us where folks can find your work, from your movement work all the way up to your wonderful questions that you've asked?
Mm.
Why play? Why? Yeah.
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 Tell us how.
Well, you can
Tell us.
find me at raepica.com and everything you wanted to know about me and more. I have several online courses, and as I said, I'm creating a new one, and on the physical aspect of things. I'm sort of coming back around full
Yes.
circle to the beginnings
Yes.
of my work. And then if people are interested in the book, Why Play? Teachers College Press, being the wonderful publishers that they are, um, they're offering your listeners a 20% discount with the code PICADEY. So it's Pica Day.
Yes. Love it.
My name and your organization's name.
Yes.
Um,
Wonderful. I
yeah.
want to thank you so, so much for your work, for your advocacy, for your passion,
Mm.
and for your wonderful laughter.
Oh,
Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
thanks, Keisha.
Bye bye.
And that was another episode of the Defending the Early Years podcast. Defending the Early Years works to support the rights and needs of young children nationally. Learn more at DEY.org. Pay us a visit, sign up for our newsletter, or connect with us on social media. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.